Alright, what's going on, guys? It's DFS Ultra, and I'm back here with a video for the first time in a while. I think the last video I made was over the summer. Yeah, I've just been really busy with school and stuff like that. As Thanksgiving rolls around, I'm headed to break, so finally have some time to make this video. I've wanted to do something like this for a while, just kind of break down my lineup and review and give my thought process on how my or on why I pick my players and stuff like that. I guess here it is. So the Week 11 lineup review is underway. So here are the scores. The highest on DraftKings was 166.86. The lowest was 141.8. Um, highest on FanDuel was 151.32, and the lowest on FanDuel was 136.96. Lineups cashed everywhere. The 141 on DraftKings barely eked into the 250/50s for me on DraftKings, and they did for most people as well. Overall, all the lineups did really well. I was really pleased with how they turned out. And I think that oh yeah, by the way, the other two scores on DraftKings, if you guys were wondering, was like a 150. They were both like 155s, and then on FanDuel they were both, or the third one was like a 137. So, like I said, overall I was really happy with how these all played out. The 166 also cashed in tournaments, as did the 150. One of the two 150s cashed in tournaments as well. So here it is. I'm gonna just do DraftKings and then I'll talk about my plays in FanDuel. But for the most part, my plays were the same for both DraftKings and FanDuel. So I'll just do the DraftKings. I'll just upload the pictures of the lineup for DraftKings. And yeah, so let's get this underway. So for this lineup, the highest scoring lineup, I had Tom Brady. If you guys want to pause the video and just read the side, I kind of wrote that out for you. I don't know if I'll continue doing that. If you guys like what I do on the side right there, um, tell me in the comment section or tell me on Twitter. But I don't know if I'll keep that up there. Yeah, so back to the thought process. We got Tom Brady at 28.56. He pretty much got what I expected to. I actually expected a 30-point performance from him. Um, for the most part, Tom Brady was chalky. He was going to be the most owned quarterback in this slate. He had a great matchup against Oakland's defense, which is just awful. And the only problem for Tom Brady for me was who to pair him with. I thought about Cooks, but I'll get into why I faded him later. Tom Brady for me was just I only had him in two lineups, but that's just because I thought there were other plays around him that I could save his salary and bump other players around him. Moving on to Kareem Hunt, I didn't really like Kareem Hunt, but the way this slate was shaping up, in my opinion, and the way the lineup construction went, I felt that I had to have Kareem Hunt just because I felt his floor was pretty high, but I wasn't sure about his upside. If you guys don't know, I tweeted this a few weeks ago. Kareem Hunt is terrible at run blocking. So in any scenario where Kansas is playing from behind, or in a close game where they're gonna try to pass and do whatever the quick shovel options and stuff like that, then the quick pitches, Kareem Hunt won't be on the field. And I don't know if you guys saw this game, but it was Charkandrick West on the field for third downs and for the drives near the ends of the game, like the final few drives, it was Charkandrick West, not Kareem Hunt. And there's talk about Kareem Hunt's, I guess, snap percentage being lower. That's mainly due to his pass blocking, in my opinion. I genuinely don't understand why he only had 4 carries at half, but um, yeah, he's not much of a pass blocker. So for that, if I said run blocking, my mistake. I meant pass blocking. For that reason, plus Damon Snacks Harrison, I was checking his status, and when they said he would play, I was extremely hesitant to play Kareem Hunt at that point, but I just, like I said, felt that I needed to. Moving on to LaShawn McCoy, he was pretty underowned in my opinion. I thought he would be very chalky. He had an elite matchup, but I just didn't feel like anyone was talking about him. Um, the Chargers were 22nd against the run, according to Football Outsiders and DVOA, and they gave up 9 catches to running backs. And I don't know. I know Shady did catch one touchdown pass. I don't think he caught more than that. I'm not really sure. But my thought process there was pretty much this is a rookie quarterback on the road against a terrible with a terrible O line against a very good pass rush. By the way, he only did have one catch, but anyways, I figured there'd be a lot of quick screens to Shady, so his PPR value would be higher. I figured they would try to establish the run and maybe play action a little bit to help it make it easier for Peterman, but Shady just kind of hit the ground running. He had those two big runs to start it off with a touchdown. Later, he had a touchdown catch, which was awesome. And for some reason, he was very under-owned at his price. And if I could have played Shady twice, I would have. But with guys, going to Melvin Gordon or Kareem Hunt, I figured like Shady was an elite pivot play. The next guy on this list was Keenan Allen. Another guy I just didn't really see a lot of people talking about. Keenan Allen was only, I think, 5,900, and I thought it was a good matchup. It wasn't the best matchup, obviously, but for his talent level, I thought it was too cheap. Now, I didn't sit there, and I'm not going to act like I sat there and said, all right, Keenan Allen's going to go nuts for 43 points. But I did expect maybe 20 points and a touchdown, so which would have exceeded value for Keenan Allen. So I liked Keenan Allen where at his price point. Ellington was chalk. He was 3,000. I'm pretty sure in one of my tournaments he was like 70% owned. I would have been shocked to see Ellington not extremely high owned. They talked him up. He had a touchdown the week before when they played, and it was Nuke was on Patrick Peterson, and so I figured Ellington was a good play. Mike Evans did kind of let me down. He wasn't as high owned as I expected him to be, so I thought he would be very chalky. But he had a great matchup, and people were kind of scared off by Fitzpatrick, but I really wasn't. Fitzpatrick just throws it. He really doesn't have fears. He's not conservative. He just kind of throws it up there. And Mike Evans did get it targeted a few times in the end zone. He just couldn't haul him in. I really thought Evans had 2 touchdown potential, so I kind of whiffed on that one. He didn't. He wasn't really a special play for me. Jermaine Gresham and Isaiah Crowell. Everyone was going towards Tyler Kroft and Mercedes Lewis and Ben Watson at his price point, but I was just thinking, bad quarterbacks love their tight ends. That's just been one of my strategies for years. If you have a bad quarterback, target their tight end. And Blaine Gabbert is to me, he's a bad quarterback. He didn't really play that bad, but he's just a bad quarterback to me. Or before the game, he was a bad quarterback to me. So I figured like Jermaine Gresham was going to be in a good spot to get like 6 catches, maybe 50 yards, easily exceed value. If he gets a red zone look, perfect, fine with me. But I was really just kind of in it to see him get like 5, 6 catches for like 50 yards. A lot of dink and dunk passes, but it was really the opposite. Gabbett came out firing. He looked pretty good until the end. So I kind of whiffed on Jermaine Gresham there. I don't think anyone really was on him either, which was why I thought he was such a good play. Isaiah Crowell, I also whiffed on. I wasn't really. He was someone that I didn't really want to play, but he was like the last guy I plugged into my lineup. After everybody else, that was the guy I plugged into my lineup. Hindsight's 2020. Looking back, if I really wanted to, I probably could have pivoted off of Kareem Hunt and then put someone that was more expensive in for Crowell. But I really didn't like anyone in the 4K to the 6K range for wide receivers or running backs really this week. So I figured Crowell was worth a good flyer. Maybe he gets into the end zone. It's a windy game. Kaiser's not going to do anything against that Jacksonville secondary. Maybe Crowell can get loose for a run or two, and maybe he can get like 60 yards, a few catches, and hopefully a touchdown. Instead, the Jaguars keyed in on the run, and they stopped Crowell because they knew that their secondary could easily hold up against DeShone Kizer. So I really didn't think about that part of it. This is a learning thing. This is why I'm making this video. So if you guys ever come across that situation where there's a bad quarterback and a good running back in a good spot, kind of think about that. Think about that the defense can key in on that running back because their secondary should easily be able to handle that quarterback. Also, a reason why I liked Crowell was Kizer took a big step, or I wouldn't say a big step, but he played the best game of his career against Detroit. So I thought maybe, yeah, I know Jacksonville was one of the best defenses and their run defense has gotten better, but maybe Jacksonville will respect him enough to where Crowell could get loose for a few runs. Chargers defense was my favorite play on the slate. You have a rookie quarterback who he's in Buffalo, so he had to travel all the way to L.A. So that's a cross-country flight. He's playing on the road with a terrible O-line. Not terrible, but below average against Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. I just didn't see. First of all, if you guys had seen my Twitter account, you would have seen all my rants. I just didn't see a way this would have gone well. I felt like the Chargers D just had super high potential, and I was all over them. I had them in every one of my lineups. Same with Shady too, and I just didn't see how that was going to pan out. So that's kind of my thought process for this lineup, and we're going to move on to the lowest scoring one for DraftKings. And it was this one. I didn't do the write-up on the side. I'm just going to talk over this one. Ryan Fitzmagic, good spot. against Miami's terrible defense. Miami is just a broken team, I think, at this point. Um, with Cutler going down, I think it's just kind of a lost season for them. I liked Ryan Fitzpatrick; he was in a good spot. Melvin Gordon, he didn't really do all that well, but that was just because it was such a blowout. So I guess the Chargers defense being so good kind of hurt me in that aspect. Um, Melvin Gordon was at 7,600, didn't hit value at all. Um, it is what it is. He did get us a touchdown, but he didn't get any catches, so that was kind of disappointing. LaShawn McCoy, like I already went over him, one of my favorite plays on the slate. Jamison Crowder, I did tweet at near towards the end like, "Hey everyone, we should pivot off of Macklin and play Jamison Crowder," and that was just because I saw Kenny Vaccaro out, and I figured Cousins had to throw it to somebody. So I figured Jamison Crowder would be the guy. I'm kind of disappointed he couldn't get to the 100-yard marker. Cousins was really just throwing a bunch of 50-50 balls, and Doxson was hauling him in, so can't blame him for doing what's working. I just figured Crowder would be a little more involved and maybe get us to that 100-yard threshold so we could get the bonus points. Ellington and Evans, we already went over them. Same with Gresham and same with Kareem Hunt and the Chargers defense. So really just Ryan Fitzmagic at his price point. He was one of my favorite plays. Um, because he also has rushing touchdown upside. I know he's not like overly fast, but he runs and he runs like head first. He doesn't really slide. He like dives forward for more yards. So maybe he does that to the end zone. If Josh McCown could get a rushing touchdown, I just figured Ryan Fitzpatrick can get a rushing touchdown. We're in 2017. Like the NFL is weird this season. Um, Also, real quickly, to whoever actually watched or had to watch that Arizona Cardinals and Houston Texan game, Blaine Gabbert versus Tom Savage. I am so sorry. That game was so bad. Anyways, moving on. Here's some of the guys who I faded, for better or for worse. Brandon Cooks, real quickly going over him. I was really I really liked him coming into it because there was nobody in the Oakland secondary that could catch up to his speed. And last year he torched them. I don't know if you guys remember last year, but he went off against them. I'm pretty sure that's when he had that 90-yard touchdown. But I did consider that fast guys like indoor turf style more, and they can use their speed more there. And so I did look up if the Mexico City Stadium was inside. It wasn't. It wasn't turf. So I decided to fade Brandon Cooks, which came back to bite me. Um, I guess I kind of overthought that one too much. So um, I really just I thought a lot of people would be on him. I thought maybe he could get like 6 catches for 80 yards, but I didn't think he would get a touchdown. So I guess I kind of overthought that one. Same thing with Larry Fitz. Um, I didn't think Gabbard would be able to move the ball so well. And if anything, I thought Fitz would maybe get like 6 catches for 60 yards. But again, that's not really overly, I guess, you're not getting a ton of value there for a guy like Larry Fitz, but he ended up going off. He got a touchdown, which I didn't expect him to do. And I was playing Jermaine Gresham, and I wasn't going to go uh, two guys. I wasn't going to play two guys in a terrible offense. That just wasn't something I was going to do. Moving on, we got Evan Ingram. Now, I did tweet out to be careful of Evan Ingram because I did see something, and it was Kansas City allows the fewest fantasy points per game to tight ends when lined up where they're supposed to be in the tight end spot. But when the tight end moves over to the slot, they give up the fourth most points to tight ends. So Evan Ingram is a guy they use in the tight end spot and in the slot a good amount. I'm not sure about the exact percentages. And when um, Sterling Shepard was initially ruled out, I was like, smash spot, Evan Ingram. He's going to have a great matchup. So I was just kind of waiting, refreshing to see if Evan Ingram they would run more two tight ends and see if I could see any news on that. And it turns out a guy named Travis Rudolph is playing the slot. So at that point, I was like, okay, this is a windy game. I am not touching the Giants against the Chiefs, even though Evan Ingram theoretically was in a good spot. I didn't really like it. So I didn't play Evan Ingram, and it worked out really well. So, yeah, follow me on Twitter if you guys want to see that or see these I guess, right before the game, just hear my thoughts and stuff. Moving on to Travis Kelce, I faded him for the most part. Of the 4 lineups on DraftKings, I played him in 1. And that was just and for him and Tyreek Hill, I saw that I may have put too much stock into this and just kind of lucked out. Who knows? But Ben McAdoo apparently gave like a really intense pregame speech to his guys before the game, and so maybe that had a part in the defense coming out to play. But for the most part, I was really always confused as to why the Giants' defense was so bad against tight ends. I know their linebackers aren't great. I figured Landon Collins could come in and help, but he really doesn't. Anyways, they give up a big touchdown to Garrett Selleck, but I just didn't think. I thought everyone would be on him with the win concerns and for game flow reasons because I figured the Chiefs would be up and then they would run it. I just didn't like Travis Kelce here, um, because I didn't think he would, smash. Because for a guy like you're paying that much, you want him to get like 20, 25 points. He got 20, didn't get 25. So for better or for worse, Travis Kelce was faded. Tyreek Hill, like I said, I didn't really like the matchup. Tyreek Hill is a deep threat, and in windy situations, I didn't think Smith was going to air it out that much to Tyreek Hill. I know they completed one deep pass that I saw. I'm not sure if they did any more. So, yeah. Chris Thompson was a guy a lot of people were on. A lot of people I talked to before I finished my lineups, they were saying they were on Chris Thompson. And I guess it worked out before his injury. And, DFS aside, I hope he comes back really healthy. He was such a fun player. He was really good this season. Um, but anyways, the reason why I didn't play Chris Thompson was just because I don't like playing players against great defenses, and the Saints have played like a great defense. Um, Plus, Chris Thompson rarely gets over 20 touches a game. I know that when Fat Rob is out, he does sometimes, but his touches aren't really that guaranteed. He's not really a red zone. He doesn't really get into the end zone too much, although he did this game. But I just didn't really like the matchup. I don't think, if I'm correct, the Saints are mediocre against giving up catches to running backs too. So I didn't really like him. And for that reason, I also didn't play Kirk Cousins. Like I said, I don't like to play players against good defenses. It's just like it is for NBA for me. Crabtree and Cooper. If you guys know me, if you guys have followed my Twitter for a while, you would see that I'm not that high on Derek Carr. I know he's a good fantasy quarterback sometimes, but overall I was just not high on him as a player. And that kind of always factors into my, like, what I know about football and how I feel about players always factors into me in fantasy, for better or for worse. And so for that reason, I haven't played Crabtree Cooper all year. And it really has worked out. I didn't really think that this was going to be a good situation. People were expecting I guess, a shootout between New England and Oakland. I really didn't. I thought New England would win this game pretty easily. I didn't expect. I'm not going to sit here and say I expected Oakland to score 3 or 8 points or whatever they scored, but I really didn't see the upside here for either of those guys. For Crabtree or Cooper, I figured a lot of people beyond them. This is the perfect time to fade them. Same thing for Devontae Parker and Jarvis Landry. A lot of people were on them. I felt it was a good time to fade them because, well, the Bucks got Quan Alexander back, so I don't know if he's been back for a little bit, but he played well finally. I don't know how much of an impact that had, but I just don't trust Jay Cutler at the end of the day. I just can't. Like I just said, I don't play good player. I don't play players against good defenses, and I don't play players in bad offenses. And this is a very bad offense, and for that reason, Jarvis Landry did come back to bite me. Um, but if Jarvis Landry, I mean, he scored like 20 points, but I didn't think he would score 20 points. I thought he would score like maybe 14, 7 catches for 70 yards. And if I lose because Jarvis Landry goes nuts, so be it. He went nuts. We still won. Kenyon Drake and Damian Williams. Someone DM'd me and said, who should I play between those two? And I said, I don't know, because I really feel like Miami loves this dual back threat they got, or the dual backfield that they got going here. Damian's more the pass catcher. Kenyon Drake the explosive runner. But it was Damian Williams who actually came out running better, and he had the better fantasy day. But I figured a lot of people would be on them because of their low price levels, and because there was a lot of talk about how these two are kind of pass catching backs, and Tampa Bay is bad against pass catching running backs. So for that reason, I was just like, let me just fade them all together. I think it's going to work out, and it did. Rex Burkhead, I kind of got lucky on, I guess. He was very chalky from what I saw and was told. He fumbled early on, didn't really see the field much after that. It's kind of a cardinal sin to fumble in New England offense. So I guess that was kind of lucky for us, but I also don't like to play players from New England just because there's so many options there. Oh, besides Brady, of course. So here are players I seriously considered but didn't really play at the last minute, for better or for worse again. Duke Johnson Jr. was someone I really liked. The thought process behind Duke Johnson was Kaiser's not going to be able to throw much to Coleman or Britt or Ricardo Louis or Njoku or DeValve, whoever they got going. They're not going to pass it to Crowell. Kaiser's going to drop back, and he's going to have to pass it to somebody. I just thought that would be Duke Johnson. I was never on Duke Johnson for the running. I was just in it for maybe he gets 6 catches for like 70 yards at his price point and helps us meet value. He was more of a cash game play for me. And real quick, if you guys have bought my lineups before, you know they're all hybrids, which means we have a bunch of cash plays, and then we have mixed in some GPP plays, which help us elevate over the cash guys, which was pretty much what happened this week. Although I think the way it ended up was the GPP plays kind of backfired on us. So, anyways, Mike Wallace was someone I really considered after I heard the news of Rashad Perriman being out. The reason why I faded him was, well, the reason why you'll see later, you see Jeremy Maclin later, but that was also one of the reasons I didn't really like Mike Wallace, just because Jerry Maclin is there. Danny Woodhead's coming back. Are they going to run the ball? I knew they were going to get up against Green Bay, but I don't know how high. I didn't expect them to be up 28 against Green Bay at any point. So I just didn't see the upset in Mike Wallace. He was so boomer bust for me, and I really considered playing him just because he was like, what, 3,800. But I at the end of the day, I really couldn't. He had a really good matchup, but I couldn't, just because, like I said, I factor in my evaluation of players into fantasy, and Joe Flacco was terrible. Moving on to Mercedes Lewis, I figured a lot of people would be on him, and I faded him because Mercedes Lewis, you're really only in there for like 3 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown, if that. And in this game, I'm pretty sure he had like 2 catches at most. If I'm wrong, maybe he only had one, and it was a touchdown, which was really just disappointing for us. But touchdowns are really hard to just predict. And so that's all I could predict from Mercedes Lewis. There's nothing guaranteed by him. At least Gresham, I saw a guy who was getting at least 5 targets like the past 2 games. Not Mercedes Lewis for me. I just couldn't predict him getting a touchdown. So I wasn't really high on him. I know that Browns are terrible against tight ends, but it's also a terrible tight end. It's Mercedes Lewis. Moving on to Ben Watson. Like I said, Danny Woodhead was being back, so I figured Woodhead would get all the work underneath. And Watson only had 1 catch, so that fade did work out. Tyler Kroft, it was Denver's. I know Denver struggles against tight ends, but it's still Denver's defense against Andy Dalton. I just didn't want to play Tyler Kroft at his price point. I know it's very cheap, but like I said, I liked Gresham more because I thought he would have a better day. Devontae Adams was someone. Like I said, I thought the Ravens would be up. I didn't know how much, but if they were, I thought they would be up like 14, 13, something like that, and which would mean Hundley would have to air it out and come back in, which is why I like Devontae Adams. They've connected a good amount of time since Hundley took over. I figured Adams would be a GPP play, and he got, I think, over 20 points, and I'm really disappointed I didn't play him, but I felt that like Mike Evans would have a higher floor and safer upside, so he didn't, but it is what it is. Woodhead I considered for a good amount, but because he had a really good game, but at the end of the day, it was him coming off an injury, and I just didn't like him. And Blaine Gabbert I considered, because you guys know how much I love cheap quarterbacks, but at the end of the day, it's Blaine Gabbert. These are the guys I considered fading, but ultimately ended up playing. Gresham, Crowell, Crowder, Fitzpatrick, Ellington, Zach Ertz on FanDuel. I know I didn't go over my plays on FanDuel, but for the most part, Zach Ertz was the only one that was different. I thought he would have a good game against Dallas. Dallas is a terrible defense, but I really didn't consider that Ertz was coming off an injury. They said he was practicing. They said he was fine. So I thought he would have a good day, but I guess he was more of a decoy out there. So that kind of blew up in my face. And Kareem Hunt. Here's a theory that I have working on. It's called the bye week theory. You guys have probably seen it around, but teams struggle coming off the bye. So last week you saw Ravens, Chiefs, Raiders, Eagles, and 3 of those did struggle. The Ravens obviously played a great game, but they also played Brett Hundley and the Packers. Chiefs struggled against the Giants, although Andy Reid is historically good coming off the bye. I don't know what happened there. I guess wind. Raiders really struggled. And then the Eagles, if you guys watched that game, Wentz was terrible that first half, although they did turn it up the second half. So if you guys want to take that for what it's worth, I generally avoid players coming off bye weeks because they're rusty. And so the bye week teams this week are Carolina Panthers, Colts, Jets, and the 49ers. So here's my final thoughts, my recap. And it's really just trust your gut. There were a few guys, like I said, Devontae Adams, Mike Wallace, and had I trusted my gut, we could have had a bigger week. But, I'm okay with the way the week went. It was really good. Everyone profited. All my subscribers cashed a lot of money, so I was fully okay with it. And really just learn from my mistakes. That's why I'm doing this, try to give you an insight to what I'm thinking through my plays. And if you guys have any questions, just hit me up on Twitter or respond to this video, and I'll get at you. For the most part, that's about it. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. I don't know if I'm breaking down this week's slate. I don't know if I'll have time, but if I do, I'll let you guys know on Twitter. All right, see you guys later.